SEGA Bits presents SEGA Talk, a podcast talking all things SEGA with your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello and welcome. Welcome to SEGA Talk, number 43. I'm Barry, with me is George.
Hello, everyone.
And we're talking about Sonic the Hedgehog.
Uh-oh. Which one?
Yeah. Well, it's not the 16-bit game. It's not the 8-bit game. It's not the 2006 game. It is the movie. Yeah, that's right. The 2020 movie. SEGA Talk is busting into, what would this be? Like events, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So when we kicked this show off, however many years ago, we said we'd get to events. I was always thinking maybe like famous E3 events, Tokyo Game Shows. I never thought I'd be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog movie as, that. So, as we all know, as fans, since 1991, there has been several attempts at releasing a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. So many that we could do a whole show on those. But on this episode, we're talking specifically about Paramount Pictures' Sonic the Hedgehog. The movie itself had several twists and turns in development, which we will cover here, before it finally released on February 14th, 2020. But before we get into that, off the top of your head, can you recall any early Sonic movie attempts?
There was a Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie OVA, that everybody remembers, which I think is probably the closest we've gotten to an actual, video gamey Sonic. That's the only one I technically remember. I do know there's other ones that I'm sure you'll enlighten the viewers with.
Yeah, so Ken Penders did his pitch. He was a writer for Archie for many years. He was responsible for a lot of the Echidna lore, which is kind of ironic given it's in this movie, but it's not having anything to do with Ken Penders. There were several others too. In fact, was it Blake J. Harris who did Console Wars who told us, I don't think it was on the DL, because he was talking about it on the podcast, that he was researching the Sonic movie that never happened way back in the 90s. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Could we get any exclusives? He's like, well, keep your eyes peeled to the news sites because I'm working. Nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened with that story. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. And he also told us that he had high scanned Sega Genesis ads from the 90s that Super HD or something that were
that was
clean.
That was the because we had them both on to talk about the release of the Genesis book. That was Darren Wall. Anyway, I'm getting in the weeds, but basically, over the years doing the Sega Bits stuff, we talked to people and they mentioned little things they're working on, little promises. Nothing came of it. So, to be honest, because nothing came of his article, I didn't want to get into it here because I feel like we're going to be missing out on something really cool. Also, there is a guy that had a script, a Sonic movie script. Someone, I believe, emailed us and was like, hey, is this worth anything? And I was like, hey, it might be. Why don't you send me some pages? Or why don't you... And he was like, I want to know how much it's worth. And I'm like, well, I'm not willing to buy it because it sounds like you want a lot of money. But if you scan it, there are people who would be very interested in it, and you'd just be doing a service. The script itself is still worth something, but you'd be doing a service just to people in general to see this thing, and they're sitting on it. They're not giving. So it's who cares about video game history? Who cares? It's just all about money. I'm sick of these people. Anyway.
If you had the script, would you want a big buck for it?
If I had the script, I would scan the entire thing, and I'd want people to credit me for putting it out there, but I'd keep it as a collectible. But I would put an entire scanned script out there so people could see it. I think it's selfish. I don't know. There's an entire pitch for a Sonic movie out there that we've never seen. And the funny thing is, they sent me the picture of the cover and then a few snippets. But if you mess with Photoshop, you can read the first page through the covers. So that was me. Man, those were the crazy years of Sega Bits. But so let's talk about the Sonic movie we're talking about now. So do you recall the earliest signs of what would become this Sonic movie?
So, I mean, it feels like it's been so long since, like, even this movie came out. Like, it's only been, like, 2 months, right? And I feel like, oh, yes, before the COVID-19, I remember the good old days.
Right.
I do remember that it was a Sony movie, Sony Pictures movie. I do remember that
That's right.
It was supposed to be about a hedgehog. Remember that? I remember the little stories like that, and then it was always like, I think we even did a Sega News bits where it's like, it's coming out 2018, and then we changed it 2019, and then we finally got in 2020. So it's been one of those movies that it's like, we never heard anything about it. It was like silent, and then we got all these leaks, and then I didn't even believe the leaks, to be honest with you. I'm like, this has to be fake. And most of the leaks, I would say about 99%, were real, or they were real at the time, and it's now proof has come out that 100% we were on the ball on this. But what about you?
Yeah, so I'm with you. It was the Sony stuff, but as I was looking through our archives, like the SEGA stuff, because to be honest, this is really the first time I've used us as the main source, because we hit on every major story that came out. We weren't doing all the little piddly things where we're like, look, Ben Schwartz made a joke about yada yada. Like, that's Sonic Stadium's realm. Like, I don't cover every single thing. But when something big happens, we covered it. And way, way back, January 2012, Sega Bits was only 2 years old at this time. There was a story on our site, and what it was covering was that Yuji Naka had visited Marza Animation Planet's offices in, I believe, California, the California office. And he posted on his social media, it looks like they're working on a Sonic movie. Their offices seem nice, and they have a screening room and theater there. So, you know, we didn't really have much to say about that. It was just kind of like, oh, maybe they're doing CG, like another Night of the Werehog or something. It wasn't anything that really, you know, caused any alarm bells to go off, and we didn't hear anything for years. But then in 2014, in June, it was announced that Sony Pictures would be releasing a Sonic movie, and that's when the story really started. So it's interesting now with that hindsight. You look back and you're like, oh, okay, so Marza was probably trying to pitch a Sonic movie, and they were looking for a studio, looking for some way to make it bigger than just a little YouTube video, you know? So here's the story as it was reported by The Hollywood Reporter. Sony and producer Neil Moritz are bringing the best-selling Sega video game Sonic the Hedgehog to the big screen. The studio is teaming with Japan-based production company Marza Animation Planet, a division of the Sega Sammy Group, to make a hybrid computer-animated live-action feature. Upright Citizens Brigade alums Evan Susser and Van Robichuk are writing the screenplay, which will follow the antics of Sonic, the world's fastest hedgehog, and the film will also feature some of the franchise's favorite characters, including Dr. Eggman. Sony-based Moritz of 22 Jump Street is producing through his original film, Banner, which I believe is credited on the final movie, alongside Marza's Takeshi Ito and Mai Onishi. Toby Asher is executive producing, and the last bit here is a clip. So they said, there are limitless stories to tell with a character like Sonic the Hedgehog and a built-in international fan base, Columbia Pictures president and production Hannah Mengele said. Along with our wonderful creative partners at Marza, we're looking forward to capturing everything that generations of fans know and love about Sonic, while also growing his audience wider than ever before. So, I don't have it in the notes, but reading that quote, and I'm not trying to like blast the movie just yet.
You're going to do that, though, in the future, right? A little bit. Does that quote capture the movie we got? Not really. Like, I don't want to be like negative. Like, I liked the movie, but the story they told was kind of like a carbon copy, kind of like, oh, it's a road trip movie, so now we could put a bunch of scenes back to back, because that's what the road trip movies are all about. It was fun, but like, it wasn't telling it wasn't really aimed like the way they're saying. There's like unlimited stories of Sonic the Hedgehog. They kind of chose a generic one in the end, considering that they think there's a lot of stories. You think they would have stuck with Sonic lore, or like I don't know, like it did make me feel in the end of the movie that there was a lot of stuff they could have touched on that they never touched on. So that's kind of probably the disappointing part, but also I think that's why fans left the theater feeling hopeful for the sequel. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because with the whole limitless stories thing, when you read the quote here, you start thinking, well, yeah, I mean, Sonic Colors was a wild story, Lost World, Generations. I mean, you just think about the games at that time and earlier, Unleashed. Like, what could they do in the theaters? Wow. And, I mean, the story we got, it is, I guess, one of the limitless possibilities, but it's a very, very safe one.
Very.
And one that wouldn't come to my mind at first if someone said, hey, here's the plot of the Sonic movie. I'm not trying to get too down on it, but it's interesting to see how it was initially being sold. Also, these people from the Upright Citizens Brigade, Evan Susser and Van Robichaud, we follow them on Twitter, and I forgot who these guys were until I wrote these notes. I'm like, who is this Van guy that was always tweeting? Like, should I unfollow him? He does not talk about anything relating to us.
Yeah. Yeah, he talks about, like, he has, like, a brand, right? A Van brand?
I think that's the joke. Like, his brand is himself. So he puts a sticker around, and people are like, oh, what's Van the brand? Oh, that's me.
And
it's like a...
Are any of these people still, like, in the Paramount picture? Like, I feel like they kind of switched everybody around and new people came in, right?
Right, so I believe, as with many movies, like the people who are in the earliest drafts, they're still credited, even though like a lot of their work does not make it to the final product. I remember at the time, Evan and Van were talking about how they were playing a lot of games, they were reading a lot of materials. I don't recall, when was the Sonic 20th anniversary event? That was 2011, right?
Was it 25th anniversary event? It was like 20...
No.
No, you're talking...
Wait, 25th, yeah. So 2016. And we were there. We didn't get into the VIP section, but I've told this story before. Some of the Sonic Retro guys ran into some people who worked on the Sonic movie, or were working on it, and they were like, guys, do you have any ideas for movies? And that's when they pitched to them the idea of the pilot, like an old pilot who tells his granddaughter stories about Sonic. And I'm sure at that point they're like, all right, thanks, this is we're gonna leave.
Yeah.
I think the creative team as it stands, though, it's fine. I do have to wonder if the final product would have been vastly different, maybe closer to the games, who knows. But it seems like, and we'll get into what sold Paramount onto the movie, but it seems very different from what sold Paramount. It seems like here they were all go, and they were going to make the movie, they had the writers, they had this and that. So yeah, let's get into this. So in 2015, Sony Pictures had their email servers hacked and information about the Sonic movie leaked. One email from Senior Vice President of Sony Pictures Releasing International, Noriaki Dick Sano, features a funny typo and some details about the upcoming film. So here's what Dick wrote. Here you go, George. He said, Sonic the Hedgehog. Dear all, Hannah Mangella just called me to give me an early heads up on the very popular video game for years from SEGA Game Maker, named Sonic the Hedgehog. Will be made into a live-action film. Script is not yet completed, and it will be financed 50-50 by Sony Pictures Entertainment and SEGA. Miss Mai Onishi from SEGA, also actually now called SEGA Sammy, would be stationed to Burbank until the completion of the film. She will be coming to my office for a courtesy visit this afternoon. So Hannah's phone call was very timely and appreciated. According to Hannah, the release date in the U.S. would hopefully be in 2016. Wow. I hope this would be another franchise like Resident Evil for our Japanese market. Sincerely, Dick.
He's letting people know who's the boss.
So, George, who was baited by that hedgehog? You know who.
Who
got mad?
Tom Kalinske, the president of SEGA of America, when we did the story, he like retweeted. He was mad. I forgot what he said. He was like, "This can't be happening?" ? Or something.
He's like, Sonic's gonna be a dog.
Can you imagine if they actually did it? They're like, you know what? CGI's too expensive. Let's just dye a dog, like get a golden retriever and dye him blue. Like, how do you think that would have worked out? That's like so.
Can I just say, I love Tom's Twitter account. He's so angry.
Oh yeah.
At the president, and he like gets so upset, and then he gets so excited about Sonic stuff. It's just, It's basically what I wish my Twitter account was, but I don't want to lose friends.
Same.
Or make enemies, I should say.
And I don't know. I just think talking politics on Twitter is kind of toxic. It's like 120 characters to come up. Sometimes I don't even know if he's angry yet. Sometimes I'm like, wait, does he like Trump? Or because sometimes he'll just say like a phrase like, "What is this?" ? And I'm like,
Right.
I don't know what
And
to
to
tell
save
you.
ourselves, I will say in the final Sonic movie, Tom does get excited about getting a letter from the president. And I was doing the math in my head, and I'm like, wait a minute, is he really? So we'll get into that, right?
Yeah, the president from Sonic
another
the
email.
Hedgehog.
Another email by Sonic executive, I don't know why I said Sonic, Sony executive Hannah Minghella said that she showed concern about a Sonic movie and a Console Wars movie coexisting. I thought this was crazy at the time. So basically they said, I've gone back and reread the outline we bought in 2012. It is an 80-page outline about the competition between Sega and Nintendo featuring numerous consoles and games. The main characters of the proposal, as outlined in the cast of characters section, are the executives at the companies. 3/4 of the way through the outline, the turning point for Sega was the creation of Sonic the Hedgehog. Well, I didn't remember this as an element of the proposal. Like, first off, lady, you didn't remember that Sonic the Hedgehog was a turning point of Sega? Jesus Christ.
Dude, if she came up to me and she told me this, you're like, you're fired. I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah,
Like,
I'd be like,
what?
you're working on the Sonic movie and you, oh boy. In part because it came so late in the story. Oh, so she didn't read the whole thing. That's like classic gotcha when you didn't do the book report. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't remember the whale and Moby Dick doing the, you know.
Or the kids in that one movie, I don't remember anything, right? It's like me saying I don't
Right.
remember anything. Like, we're going to be talking about the movie and I'm like, oh, wait, Sonic had a friend?
So she says here, I still don't see what the conflict is. One movie is a fictional children's film, and the other is a nonfiction behind-the-scenes look at the two iconic companies and the heated rivalry between the executives there. Sonic is part of the story, but he is not a character in Scott's film, at least not from my read of the treatment. Why would Sonic be a character in a... Anyway.
Can you imagine Tom Kalinske in the movie's like, oh, we got to make somebody, and then like Sonic shows up and he's all, I'll save your company.
It's like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and he's
Yeah.
like, no, Sonic, I can't. He's like, come on.
That'd be great.
Let's make a game based on me. Call it Sonic the Hedgehog. Jeez. He says, I do think Ange or I should have called Scott to let him know that we were going to develop a Sonic film, but I genuinely don't understand why one impacts the other. I suppose now might be the time to let him know Sony Animation is negotiating for the Mario rights from Nintendo. So basically, a lot of people are raising concerns that there's two Sonic movies going on at Sony. And this woman's kind of like, well, first off, I didn't know Sonic was like a big part of this movie about Sega versus Nintendo. And I don't think it's a big deal, but, you know, it sounds like it sounds like a lot of people higher up making these big decisions who don't know what the hell they're doing. Because if you did not know that Sonic was a major factor in a movie about Sega versus Nintendo, what the hell? You know?
Yeah, I agree.
But anyway, you know, and if you're wondering what happened to this project, you know, it's now, 2020? Let me check my calendar. I forget what day it is now. But they are making a Console Wars limited series, so like a mini series for TV, and they're doing a documentary that I believe did air, or will air, or was going to air at South by Southwest, but won't. Something like that. So amazing that we're, you know, here, as this was in 2015, talking about these movies that were going to come out in like 2016, and it's 2020, and they're finally kind of happening.
Right.
Wow.
That's one thing I've noticed about these emails is that Hollywood is so slow, and there's a lot of people that are incompetent, and a lot of these people are like paying like top dollar for these people. Like they said, this woman is going to stay in Burbank. Who's paying the bill for that lady to stay in Burbank for like 2 years for a project, or this project that never happened? Like the Sony Sonic movie never happened, so this woman was working on a movie. I don't even know if they were working on it, because like, to be honest, we didn't really see anything about the Sony Sonic movie outside of these emails. Like, we never saw
just
concept.
Yeah, just scripts and treatments that I can imagine.
Yeah.
But things get a little spicy here. Uh-oh. So in October 2016, it was revealed that Tim Miller, director of Deadpool, was involved with the movie as an executive producer, and joining him were longtime Blur Studios collaborator Jeff Fowler, who would direct, and Neil H. Moritz of the Fast and the Furious franchise, who would produce. Marza Animation Planet was still involved with the production, with staff Takeshi Ito and Mei Onishi also joining as producers. So this is when they finally, I think, had a working script, which makes me think that this is closer to the movie that we were getting now, because this is a lot of the team that we had expected. And got just with a different studio. So when this was announced, what were your reactions? And remember, Deadpool was like hot right now, super hot.
Yeah, I didn't know about Tim Miller because like his only thing that he came up with was obviously Deadpool that he got. But like a lot of he left the project. I think the sequel, to be honest, was a lot worse than the first one. I thought it had some okay moments, but once he left, you could tell that it just went to this crazy direction. And I don't know, I kind of like his debut with Deadpool. I thought he kind of like, all right, we're telling a story, it's focused. Of course, we could go backwards and go, oh, they could have done this, the CGI was bad, the last fight was this. But it's like, he told a story that was condensed and focused, and I think that's why people bought into it. And also the humor, he kept all the Deadpool, what makes Deadpool Deadpool. So that's what made me feel like maybe he'll understand what Sonic's about and at least keep the core of the character intact. And then there's obviously the most family-friendly movies of all time, Fast and the Furious, which are all about family and honor and respect. And, that's all what Sonic's for, too. You're going fast, too, not cars, but in foot. So what was your reaction?
So when I looked at it, heard this, I immediately looked at the director, looked at what they did, and they have not done anything. They were an animator. Their only real thing was doing an animated short that was nominated for an Academy Award. Didn't win, but it was nominated. And I thought that was like, maybe not a red flag, but just kind of like, this is Sonic the Hedgehog, and you're giving it to someone who's doing their first directing gig. Like,
that's true. That's true.
That's a little, I don't know about that. And if you want to know more about Jeff Fowler, if you pick up the digital release that's out now or get the Blu-ray or 4K when it comes out, the commentary on that, he does go a little more into detail, and it makes more sense as to how he knows Tim Miller, his early work, all that. So now that I've heard his story, I'm a little more accepting of him getting the role. But at the time, it really seemed like a strange choice to pick someone you've never heard of. Now, I'm not saying like J.J. Abrams was going to be picked to do Sonic the Hedgehog, but it feels like it would have been someone where you're like, oh, they worked on X, Y, and Z. Yeah, I could see that. Even if it was someone that did like the Smurfs movie, I'd be like, oh, well, okay. Like, I'd get it.
It's funny that when the Smurfs movie came out, I was like not super excited, but like they had the guy from Mallrats in it, and I was like, wait, what? This might be a good. And then I watched it, I was like, never mind. What a waste. At least he cashed out though as an actor.
Yeah, he's doing well for himself. We should have him on for no reason.
For no reason, just we want to talk to him.
Yeah. So here we go. A year later, in late 2017, it was announced that Paramount swooped in to save the project. And this is pretty cool. So I did a little research on this. I thought this was an interesting thing. So basically, Sony had put the project into what's called turnaround. And turnaround is a film industry lingo for when production costs are declared as a loss on a company's tax return, preventing the studio from exploiting the property further. The studio can then sell the rights to another studio in exchange for the cost of development plus interest. Another project to go through this was The Boondock Saints, and the movie Argo didn't go through this, but the movie within the movie, which is called Argo, if you've ever seen it,
I've seen
references Turnaround several times in reference to the movie's fake movie. So, I mean, we don't need to get into taxes. We already discussed politics. We don't need to get into taxes. But why do you think Sony passed the project to Paramount?
I think really is the negative reception. I think there's this period of time in Sonic where like I think a lot of the studios didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. I think it surprised a lot of people. I think a lot of people felt like the brand isn't as highly acclaimed as something like Mario at the moment right now. And really, like, the mainstream Sonic games aren't as acclaimed. Sonic Forces, obviously, and, like, Racing weren't as acclaimed as, like, Mario Racing or whatever. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe thinking that the fans wouldn't show up, which is crazy because it actually did better than Pokemon the movie. And let's be honest with you, the Pokemon brand is hot, like super hot right now with Pokemon Go and stuff. So the fact that like Sonic somehow beat it, I think it really says a lot about the character design. And like, I don't think Sonic Team can destroy that. Like, Sonic Team can make a bad game, and then if they made a decent movie, people would go watch it because the character design is that good. I think it's like a Spider-Man design, where I would watch a Spider-Man movie just because I'm like, Spider-Man looks cool, dude. That's all I really need to do to watch this movie. But I think Sony doesn't really understand that. Like, you can see when they were talking about it, they called him a hedgehog. Like, the executives don't really know, and they probably, like, I think the mainstream press thinks, like, no, Sonic isn't that hot, right? Like, so I think word of mouth probably got to them, and they were like, let's just sell the project to Paramount and cut our losses. That's what I think they did.
Yeah, I could see that happening. I looked at what was being announced early 2017, because this was late 2017, so they would have already had to made that decision and then sold it. So, I mean, Forces and what was coming out? Forces and Mania. So that's not like, I don't think they were playing Forces and seeing the quality of the game. So at this point, there was positive buzz for the games. So I don't know if it was that. But it could have just been that the project itself was taking so long. Because as you see, we're in 2017 now. We started talking about this in 2014. So it might just have been like they were just looking at projects to axe. It could have been, looking at the tax thing, that they needed to save some money one year. And they're like, look, if we just declare this as a loss, we can make that money back. Or we don't get taxed on that amount of money. And then we can sell it. And Paramount, obviously, they've done tons of like goofy live action animal movies, so it's not anything that they haven't done before. So, could have just been that.
Who was the studio that got bought out by Disney? Was it Sony, or who was it that like they were bought out and they released them? I'm thinking Warner Brothers. No, it wasn't Warner Brothers.
Disney bought Fox.
Okay, there you go. That's what I was thinking. Then never mind.
And with Fox came Blue Skies.
Okay.
Blue Sky Studios, which did the Ice Age movies, and I thought they were doing the Mario movie.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's kind of interesting, but like, I don't know. Sony passing on it might have been a good thing, because I looked at their animated movies and I'm not that big of a fan of them. Like, their biggest movies, obviously, is this here Smurf and Hotel Transylvania, which Hotel Transylvania isn't terrible, but like Goosebumps, that was a really weird adaptation of the franchise. So, I mean, maybe we dodged a bullet on that one. My opinion.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was wrong. Illumination Entertainment is doing the Mario movie, and that's with Universal. So it's interesting here. Sony was like, "Oh, we're doing Mario, we're doing Sonic, we're doing Console Wars." I don't think they're doing any of those now. So it's like they must have. I really think they were probably like, "Let's focus on our own games and our own things," because they're doing. Aren't they working on Uncharted movie right now? They're working on. They've got Spider-Man, which isn't a game, but obviously they. Have a game. Yeah. So despite this, much of the creative team did remain intact, and the movie continued development. In July 2018, fan sites, including the always accurate SegaBits.com, reported that filming of the movie was to take place in August 2018. The filming took place at a Vancouver home in a residential area. These would end up later being Maddie's sister's house scenes, if you remember those.
Yeah, I do.
Also revealed on letterhead and handed out to residents ahead of the shoot was the movie's logo, which you can see down below here.
Yeah.
So how did you react to the filming reports? I mean, how do you react? It's just a house.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on the logo, basically?
I mean, I was like, we did a whole news bits about the logo. I personally still don't like the logo that much. The backward Sonic thing is kind of like lazy, I think, and it looks a lot like the old one, kind of like they just like Sonic big, and then the Hedgehog, and then like the Snickers bar red bar that looks like the Supreme logo.
Yeah,
and then that's it. I don't know. I mean, does it have to be fancy? No, but it has a lot of. It looks a lot like the Sega Genesis, like the what do they call it? The Genesis, the Sonic. NIS font or whatever, the Japanese guy that does all those fonts. For Photoshop. It looked like they just kind of like edited it a little bit. What do you think about it, though?
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, they just italicized it and put his spikes in the sea, which I think was unnecessary because it's just like we know what Sonic looks like. It's like if Mickey Mouse's logo was redone and they put ears all over the place. Like, we know Mickey, we know Sonic. We don't need like their features in the logo. Like the Simpsons logo, it works. We don't need Homer's hair on top of the S or Bart's spikes. Like, it just seems kind of like overkill. I bet though they were like, guys, they won't know what Sonic is. They might think it's the restaurant. Can we put the quills? It was probably that. I don't know why they just didn't put like Sonic's face, like the silhouette of his head, like next to the logo as like a mark. So it was like, boom, Sonic the Hedgehog.
What do you think?
I think that would have been fine.
The colors, like it has like this like weird, like it's a neon sign kind of, like the light blue around it with the little aura. What do you think about that design choice? Like instead of just making it a solid color, like blue.
I don't think it's as strong. It doesn't work small. Like when you do a black outline piece on black and then scale it down, the logo itself doesn't scale well. And if you look again below us in that little thing, like I was playing with the scale of that, I had to make it big, otherwise it kind of gets lost in there.
Yeah.
I feel like the it's stronger when it's solid. If it was solid blue, but having seen the movie, I get what they're going for. It's that blue electricity that Sonic has that they're working into the logo. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. On one hand, I wish it looked just like the Sonic logo as we know it, but on the other hand, I'm glad that it's different so that we can see it and immediately know that's the movie and it's not the game, but it still has a little flavor of the game in there. So that's my design critique. I think it's fine, but it could have been
great.
Could have been improved just visibility wise. The hedgehog really pops too much.
Have you seen?
You see that first.
Have you seen the Tokyo 2021 logo update? Like, I thought they did a perfect job on that one. They just basically did 2020, and then the 0 is blue in the end of it, and then it says NE in the end, so it's like 21, so it's like 2020. But I don't know if you've seen it. It looks pretty sick, but
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, but
I thought they just crossed out the 0.
They could have. They should have just done that, right? Oh, 1.
As far as the filming reports, I think at the time we were just kind of like, wow, a home, like a house in the Sonic movie. You're not going to like a exotic locale and filming there. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
And I mean that's what we got, Sonic in a house. So I mean, it is what it is. Also, at that time, the CEO of Paramount spoke. Oh, here it gets spicy. So at that time, the CEO of Paramount spoke at a Producers Guild of America question and answer session, and the following was reported by Deadline. During the discussion, Fast and Furious producer Neil H. Moritz shared with the audience how he sold Gian Papapopoulos, who was the CEO of Paramount, on making an animated version of Sonic, a classic SEGA video game character.
That's true.
The Paramount, I didn't know that. The Paramount boss was well aware of the fact that video games don't translate successfully to film. They don't.
That's true.
They don't, folks. I feel like I'm one of those guys. But there was a hook, and Moritz made a short clip to show exactly what the tone and theme would be for the furry blue character. He's not furry, he's spiky. Giannopoulos was sold on Sonic's story. He's a juvenile delinquent on the adventures in a pretty straight rural environment with a local policeman. He sounds Rastafarian. It was instantly engaging, and it was good enough where you could see where it was going. Also, in August 2018, it was revealed that Ben Schwartz was to voice Sonic.
It's true.
Schwartz was known for his work on NBC's Parks and Rec, as well as voicing Leo in Rise of the TMNT and Dewey on DuckTales. And interestingly, all these characters wear blue or are blue, and I also should note they're all like popular characters that he was not the first to voice. So I'm sure there were people, TMNT fans and DuckTales fans, who were like, or yay.
So far,
so
I've noticed that a lot of people like him as a voice actor, so I guess I can't really pin him too badly. But for what I've heard on the internet, a lot of people like him. Obviously, there's always those hardcore older fans that always come out of the woodwork, and they're like, this series is the most horrible thing I've ever seen. Right?
Right. Yeah. Just in terms of DuckTales, I didn't like how Huey, Dewey, and Louie sound like adults, because they are adults voicing kids, and because they're like, hey, what are we gonna do, Donald? I mean, are we gonna go out there and look for Uncle Scrooge? And Donald's like, you know.
I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it. I only saw when they released the theme song. I had to see that, right?
Right.
But I thought they did the theme song just fine. But like, I haven't seen it, so
Yeah.
I can't comment on his voice on that.
But we do have comments from the time. So these people on Segabits, this cool website I just discovered.
Oh, you heard about it?
Yeah, I have heard about it. It's very cool. People like it. T Dix Pix
Nice.
said he just checked out Leonardo's voice. I'm fine with this. Frankly, this guy and Carrie plus a solid creative talent with the help means that the film could actually be entertaining. We'll see. And then this person said, this is a bad news for me. So, it was mixed. Some people were like, oh, cool. Other people were like, nah. And if you join our, I don't know why I'm telling people to join our Discord after I say this, but there are a lot of people who complain constantly on our Discord about Sonic voices. And they're like, I wish Ryan Drummond would come back. And I'm like, I check the year, and I'm like, it's 2020. And you want a guy from...
He's still doing stuff for Sonic. Like, they have like a fan film coming out soon with some fans.
Right. But yeah. I guess the point I'm making is that, like, Sonic fans, when they latch onto a voice actor, they latch onto them. Like, it's crazy. So, to be honest, it was not as bad, the reaction to him, as I thought it would be, because of how crazy Sonic fans could be. Even I was a little like, and I'm a Sonic fan. I guess I'm crazy.
Yeah, a little bit.
The juvenile delinquent thing, though, that really stuck with me, and I had to throw it in here. It's just, you go back to that initial Sony quote, and then you compare it to this, and it's just this dude, and no offense to the guy, but you look at a picture of him, and he is not the target demographic. He's this old, like, Greek guy, and he's like sitting there in his chair, and he's like, you can't make a video game movie. I mean, let's look, what has this Sonic man done before? Well, sir, he's been in about 6 animated series that ran money for multiple seasons. He's been in a 90-minute animated movie, actually. There are hours of cutscenes that people have actually edited together into movies. Some people say that Sonic Adventure 2 is like one of the best plots, and it's just like a kind of a crazy animated movie. I don't buy it. I can't see it happening on the big screen.
This
and then
is
they
not
go,
real life. This is video game. You can't make this.
It's a video game. You don't go to a theater and see a video game on the screen.
Why does he sound like Mario?
I don't know. Maybe he is. That's why he's like, yeah, the Sonic can never have a movie. And they're like, sir, is that a mustache? No, please, no, look. But as you can see here, the dude probably did not have a very big imagination or grasp on what, can work with Sonic. And so they sold him on this, and it worked, whatever. Like,
I think that's the problem, too, though. Like, when you're pitching a movie with these people, you got to give them a story where it's, like, very simple to understand. Like, he's going with a cop. It's a road trip movie. Oh, I like road trips. Me and my wife went on a road trip last week. See, I could relate to that, but he can't relate video games because he doesn't understand. So, like, explaining to him, like, oh, and Shadow came out, and he's the ultimate life form, and he's like, what?
Wait a minute, Shadow, give him a movie. Put him up there. That's true. But I will say, I think this quote really sticks with me, because whenever I hear people who worked on the movie going, this is a movie for the fans, we're really listening to the fans, I'm like, this was a movie made for this old CEO, full stop. Like you said, you admitted right here, the producer of the movie sold a movie that this guy would accept. So this is not a movie made for the fans. It's a movie made for a CEO to approve. And I feel like if there was someone with a little more imagination in place, they would have said, why don't you do the biplane and the islands and the big robot things? Like, let's put a little money into this, because I think we could really make more than what you're projecting here. I think this could be bigger. Like, what's Detective Pikachu looking like? Like, that looks pretty big. Like, let's go a little bigger. But who am I?
I think that they did the movie that they could. I think this is like the problem with Hollywood, right? And I think they did a good job, like, saying, okay, Sonic went to another universe and not missing too much with the world of Sonic, so they could be like, all right, the movie was a success. Now give us money to do a sequel so we could do a proper Sonic World movie. And I think we could just, okay, it's a road trip movie, fine. I hope that if they do a sequel, they expand on the lore a lot more and then we stick to Sonic's world a lot more. And it's weird because I've heard even fans going, oh, I want to see what Donut Lord is up to. And I'm like, wow, I'm surprised.
Good for you. Go watch a Donut Lord movie. That's not what I go to the theater for. Did I go to the theater? We'll find out. Stay tuned. So we did do a Sega talk. Actually, I did a solo one at the time talking about the news that I just talked about here. And I did lay out what I thought the plot would be. I was pretty close. I did have Tom in Green Hills, Sonic being there. I said Sonic got a ticket for speeding, maybe, which I was off.
Should have been, though.
I said that Eggman would attack the town, the townspeople would stand up, which did happen, and Sonic would win.
Yeah.
So I was like 90% accurate there, so I'm pretty cool. In December of 2018, the movie poster, official logo, and silhouette of Sonic was revealed, and woof.
Yeah.
Sonic looked mighty strange. At the time, we shared Japanese fan reactions, and the best one summed up the thoughts of many, which is, Mr. Sega, are you serious? I need to make that t-shirt still.
Yeah, I know.
So let's look at this high-res poster. Geez, this is like the one that they sent to the printers. This is massive.
Yeah, this is the one they were proud of.
Yeah. So it's, you can see it right there. Like, even if it's silhouette, you're like, whoa, what are they going for here? How about you? What were your initial thoughts? Don't even think about the trailer that followed. Just think about this.
I thought that it was kind of interesting, and I actually put the wrong poster up on the screen. Let me put the right one up. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty, like, I don't know, like as an intro or whatever, it was all right. I mean, just a silhouette, right?
Right.
And I'm trying to put it on screen, but now this one OBS won't let me. But anyway, it's the one with just the outline, and I got the one with the feet up on the screen.
Well, no, but that's a good one too, because we'll discuss that one too. I don't know if I actually put that. We have the teaser ones coming up. You can leave the feet up there. We'll get to those too.
Yeah, so the one with the outline was kind of rough. Like, we didn't know what it was, but the thing that really kind of scared me from it was the outline of his feet. Like, they really wanted to make him have a big head, this like weird eyeball that looks like a chihuahua on the side, and then his like. I still don't like the whole like he has lightning thing. I'm not really that into that. I think it's a mistake, but I could let it pass now. They kind of like toned down that whole lightning thing. Have you noticed that in the movie? Like, I feel like that was supposed to be the whole like main point of the movie, but like they kind of scaled it back to just the plot, I guess. I mean, it is in the plot, but it's just scaled back. It feels like but the silhouette's ugly. I mean, that's all you can say about it.
And they were kind of doing a press junket at that time, so IGN had a lengthy interview that came out shortly thereafter when the redesign came up, and the filmmakers had this to say. They said, the most challenging part of Sonic's updated design isn't revealed in this teaser, his eyes. The filmmakers struggled with how best to depict Sonic's eyes, because often he's only seen with one, and that wouldn't translate well to a live-action movie. I don't think SEGA was entirely happy with the eye decision, but these sorts of things, you go... It's gonna look weird if we do it like this. But everything is discussion, and that's kind of the goal, which is to only change what's necessary and stay true to the rest of it, said Miller. He's not gonna feel like a Pixar character would, because I don't think that's the right aesthetic to make it feel like part of our world. So, my question is it good when the owner of the license tells you that they're not happy with the design, especially in an interview teasing the redesign's reveal? And what are your thoughts on the eye excuse?
The eye excuse, terrible. Like, it wasn't even the eyes, really, that like made the design bad. It was really everything. Like, the gap between the eyes was too wide. The fur looked ugly. I mean, it was just a mess. Like, they could go ahead and talk about the eyes all they want. I do think the redesign, they still did the 2-eye thing, but it looked fine. I just think they were making excuses. Like, right when I heard that the eye and that Sega wasn't happy, you know where we're going downhill with the actual reveal of this, right?
Right, right. And they said, I think their big thing is they didn't want it to feel like a Roger Rabbit movie where it was like, or here they said a Pixar character like in the real world. My argument is, though, that I have seen every Pixar movie, and even the ones that people would say are the worst ones, I get a little emotional during some scenes, and I'm looking at Pixar characters. So I don't understand that where they're saying that it does not translate well to live action, because, you know, you look at the finished product that we got, it looks like a Pixar character. I mean, It doesn't look exactly like one, but you know what I mean? He looks cartoonish, but they put realistic shading and everything on him. Like, going back to that Pixar thing, you watch a movie like Toy Story 1 compared to the recently revealed Soul movie that's coming out. They're both cartoonish, but one looks a lot more real just in terms of the way that they use textures on the model and the technology they have now. So I don't really buy that, and it does come up later in this in my notes here, where again they talk about why they went with a more realistic look, and I don't buy it. I really feel like it was probably Tim Miller pushing, because he did not think it was the right aesthetic to make Sonic feel a part of our world. And the problem is, Sonic isn't a part of our world. That's the whole movie. He's an alien who came here. So when you look at him, you think, whoa, that's freaky. And they went the wrong kind of freaky. They went like real world freaky, like we found this thing in the woods and we're like, what the hell is it? When they should have gone, this guy looks like a walking, talking cartoon character, but no one's going to call him that. You know what I mean? And it worked. Because, I mean, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but like, the Sonic design is great and it works, and that's a reason why we have the franchise we have. And so how ballsy was it for them to come in here and think they could make it better?
I think we've seen this with a lot of new Hollywood types. Like, I don't want to be like the only the original matters, but there's a reason why some of these characters have become iconic over the time. And like, how many times have we seen, oh my god, like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles be remade, and everybody always, and like if you do a pool, they did one for the 30th anniversary or whatever of the original movie, and they did a pool, and everybody liked the original movie the best, and it's like, wow, like maybe there's something there, like there's a reason they like it, because it kept, I don't know, true to the comics. It's kind of crazy that back then, where they had lower budget, they stayed more true to the comics than they do now with the new one, where they add a bunch of gadgets and stuff. And I feel like they were trying to do their version of Sonic for the merch, maybe to like separate it from the modern and classic. Maybe it's the same reason for Boom to do a redesign, right? The merch sales.
Yeah. Yeah, so I will say, and that's a good point you brought up, Ninja Turtles. Like, they've had many live-action Ninja Turtles movies, and the one, it's not so much a CG versus live-action suits thing. It's just the mere fact that first Ninja Turtles movie in 1990, I think it was 91 or 1990,
maybe
it worked so well.
Who knows?
Yeah, they took what really worked in the comics and even in the cartoon and translated it really well to the real world. So they looked real, they were real, and they still felt like they were the characters you knew and loved. And I feel like the final design that we got came very close to that, and it works really well. And so you look at the original Sonic design, which is below me, and that one is more in line with the new Michael Bay produced Ninja Turtle movies, where it's just like, what the hell were they thinking? They were like, what was the big thing? They needed noses. And it was like, they don't need noses, just put the little dots, the little holes. And you can see a lot of those ideas kind of working here. I mean, we could talk all day about Sonic's redesign, but let's look here. So you have that poster you showed with the legs. Fans hated it. Can you show the Twitter response?
Yep.
You have that?
Yeah, I got that. The candy guy work out? Question mark.
Yeah, and it was like leg day, right? That was the hashtag.
Yeah.
So we did learn that SEGA of America proper and the Sonic account did not run the Sonic movie account. So that's not Aaron Weber doing anything there. They just advised or something like that. I don't think they approved anything, really. It was just kind of like giving them an idea of how to handle the fans. And I really feel like this was someone trying to be Aaron. Don't you?
Yeah, it does really feel that way, huh?
Yeah, and it's like people are pointing out how freakish his legs look, and then you're coming back with like a goofy post like that, and then being like, "See you next year." It's like, no, wait. It looks freaky, like that's not a good thing.
It's like they were like mocking it, even though the legs never looked freaky like that in the real film. So it was kind of a weird tease. It almost felt like they wanted the press where people, like, you know how they do those articles where one person gets upset on Twitter and they're like, crazy Sonic fans will get upset on Twitter, and here's all the responses, and it's always like the same guys that reply to our stories and tells us shut up all the time.
Exactly. There were also leaks of mock-ups featuring Chris Pratt photoshopped as Tom, who was on a leaked wish list of potential Toms.
Yeah.
Pratt was also on the Sonic side of the wish list. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but I just wanted to show that.
The cast listing?
Yeah, that cast list.
Got it.
Hopefully my video doesn't... Yeah, these pictures are like made to like print it. High res. So we've got Tom. We can read some of these. Chris Pratt, Chris Evans, Paul Rudd, Jake Johnson, Michael B. Jordan. So they weren't, they were jumping around here. Interesting. Adam Pally actually is in the movie. He's the other cop.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah. And then you see here for Sonic, Tom Holland. It's interesting. Chris Pratt and Tom Holland actually were in Pixar's Onward together as brothers.
Yeah, I saw that recently too.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I like that. Josh Gad, Chris Pratt here again, Andy Samberg, Bill Hader.
They wanted him to play both Tom and Sonic. Can you imagine that? He's like, hey, talking to himself.
Yeah, I have to wonder, too, if these are, like, in order of how much they want them. I think it has to be, because you look at Chris Pratt at the top and Tom Holland at the top, they're probably like, if we can get these two guys, great. Josh Gad for the Frozen thing, I guess.
It's funny that those two, they got those two but on the Pixar movie.
Yeah, exactly. So here, just real quick, you pick one Tom and one Sonic that you'd like, and I'll pick mine.
All right.
Like if you had to pick.
Okay, Bill Hader as Tom, and Paul Rudd as Sonic, because he dressed like Kazuma Kiryu, so you got to give the man his props. I mean, that's just random, but
yeah.
Go on, you.
My picks, I'd go Paul Rudd for Tom, and then for Sonic, I'd do Will Forte. What do you mean? He'd just be like completely bad for the role. He'd be like, I don't want to go fight. Have you ever seen him do his like weird, I don't want to fight him, I don't want to do it.
Is that how you wanted him to act? And it's crazy like, because like the names that we actually, I mean, we don't have a Dr. Eggman here, but I guess, okay, so they wanted Chris Pratt and Tom Holland to be kind of like the celebrities that kind of promote this film, but it actually came out to be really Dr. Robotnik's Jim Carrey, because he was the one doing the circuits mostly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's kind of weird that Robotnik, the villain, is the one that was promoting the movie the most.
Yeah, and they finally stuck him on the poster there at the very end, and I think, he was really the selling point when it came into it. And actually, we'll get to Robotnik here real soon. So rolling into 2019, fans were bracing themselves for additional reveals, including trailers and final posters, in anticipation of the movie's November 18th, 2019 premiere. In the meantime, it was revealed that Junkie XL would compose the music, which was welcome news to fans. In March of that year, an overly enthusiastic staffer at a company that handles licensing materials posted the Sonic movie license ebooks to the company's portfolio. Oof. This was actually the first time the full final design was revealed. Whoops, it was taken down soon after. Yeah.
I'm looking at it right here, and it's ugly. Like, it looks like the Instagram icon, and I don't like the Instagram icon colors. I mean, it works for an icon for like a phone, but like I don't like that weird orange, red to blue kind of like gradient thing going on.
Oh yeah. So that was that's the style guide there. So they wanted all the products to have that. As far as Sonic himself, it was really close to the final original design. It's just a kind of bad render of what would be the CG one. I don't know why they didn't just use the CG model instead of doing a render of a render.
I have no idea. It's like concept art.
And I feel really bad for whoever uploaded this, because it's like I've myself worked on things that I know I can't share because I'd be getting into big trouble. Not that there are people like going online saying, hey, I wonder what S.C. Johnson has planned for my big fat Greek wedding too. Oof. You know, like that's not happening. But that is something I can't like post right away on my portfolio.
So what do you think about, as a person that works on stuff like this for a living, what is your opinion on the style guide? And did they ever use this style guide for merch? Because I don't think I've seen that much merch for the Sonic movie.
You know, that's a very good question. Let me see. I'm just going to take a look at some Sonic movie toys here real quick. There wasn't that many. I don't know if they pulled them or if there just was not as big a rollout for them. But yes, they did use this orange and blue kind of gradient with it.
Why?
I don't know why.
What is your opinion on the gradient stuff, though? Like, I feel like it looks like the Instagram icon, kind of.
Yeah, orange and blue is a really popular choice right now. It's real hot. So, you know, I'm sure they were looking at the ring, they were looking at Sonic, the shoes, and thinking, you know, it kind of covers that color spectrum that Sonic has, but the problem is you have a character who is blue and orange and red and tan, and then you have a background that's orange and blue and red and tan. It doesn't pop. It just kind of all blends together. Like putting a dark blue character on a dark blue background, like, doesn't work. They could have done a lot better. And yeah, so that same month we also had details of a test screening leaking, which confirmed much speculation and in hindsight was very much in line with the final film, minus, of course, the impending redesign. In April, and here's the big one, SEGA Bits made the news as we were the first outlet to reveal that Jim Carrey was playing Robotnik. Well, we knew he was playing him, but it was the first picture from the movie. Screenshot, yeah. We have been asked how we got that, and we will not tell. We were... What were the cool Twitter things that happened? We started a trend, right? Was it worldwide? Or
it was worldwide.
American?
It was on the front page of like the trending for some reason. Like Twitter put us there because it got so many likes and retweets, which was pretty interesting. And I don't know. I mean... Okay, so Jim Carrey gave us the picture because we obviously know Jim Carrey.
That was who it was.
And he came to our house and he gave us the picture and an actual photograph. We had to scan and then put.
I have a picture of him and I right here, but I can't reach it. I'll show it to you guys later, maybe.
But yeah. And we said in the tweet
you,
that the trailer was going to hit the day after the tweet, and it did. I kind of wanted them to like. Delay it and go, oh yeah, we're doing it the day after. Screw those guys, but they didn't.
Right,
thankfully.
right. So all I'm saying is, if you work for SEGA and you're like, hey, let's work with some content creators, some YouTubers, like, ease up. Think about SEGA Bits. Think about that worldwide trending we got going. Like,
think about it.
We can make it happen, guys. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, so should we watch the trailer?
I have it up. Just tell me when to press play and I'll do it.
All right, and go. I think we're getting the Kino Check logo on this one.
What the? Oh, Tom. Paramount logo with the rings is pretty sick.
Here's your blue lightning, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh. The ground.
He has little butt cheeks.
That's true. Oh god, I forgot how ugly this old design was.
20 minutes ago, an energy surge.
The general with the ribbons.
Pacific Northwest.
Mm-hmm.
Just need someone who can figure out exactly what we're dealing with.
You're not suggesting who I think you're suggesting.
We have no choice.
What the? Are you in charge here?
Yes, I am.
Nope.
I'm
wrong. I'm in charge. Allow me to clarify. In a sequentially ranked hierarchy based on level of critical importance, the disparity between us.
A lot of Jim Carrey.
Agent Stone.
Mm-hmm.
The doctor thinks you're.
They knew that he would be the selling point.
I'm sorry,
They're not wrong though.
Nobody cares. SFPD.
Meow. Meow. it's crazy how all this stuff literally was still in the movie. Like, they didn't change the movie that much. You would think that, like, oh, we have more time for CGI. Oh my god, the CGI is so bad right there.
Whatever this
Wow.
creature is, our job is to secure it, neutralize it. See what
Jesus,
makes
this
it
is actually a pretty long trailer. I thought it was way shorter.
It's really long. Yeah, it's like over 2 minutes.
The Ring, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Has a Genesis. Get it? You guys play Sega Genesis, guys?
Nice.
I never
It's called
understood this part right here, like how his power works, but alright.
Yeah, we'll probably get into that too.
Does he stop time, or... Like, that's not... You can't be that fast. I mean, imagine the movie would have been over like that.
Can't breathe in here.
Do you have your child in that bag?
Oh, this joke.
No. I mean, yes, it's a child, but it's not mine.
It's not your child.
Smells like body spray and an old ham sandwich.
November, I highly doubt. And then, did they showed Robotnik in the end of the movie? I mean, trailer?
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I didn't remember that. Oh, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, it's like they really wanted. I feel like they knew what they had, and they're like, we got to show them something. Like, they're seeing this creepy blue Sonic. Let's give them Robotnik as he looks, as Eggman.
And you know what's funny though, because like when I Googled all the cast, so I could put it in the notes, and it's funny because like the first one that comes up is that, I mean, not the first one, but maybe the third one is always the bald Dr. Eggman. I feel like a lot of fans share that so much that when the sequel comes out, I don't think we're ever going to see the Eggman with hair. So
No.
in my opinion, they probably should have had it since the first one. I mean, right away, like he was like that, and because I think it looks way better. I mean, when he's doing his little thing, I was just like, yeah, I could see him like this being Eggman, but like the one they showed with the hair and stuff, I wasn't too much into it. I would be okay with even with like his antics he does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people did not like that design. In fact, in May, very soon after, the movie's director responded to all the backlash saying, "Thank you for your support and the criticism. The message is loud and clear. You aren't happy with the design and you want changes. It's going to happen. Everyone at Paramount and SEGA are fully committed to making this character the best he can be. Hashtag Sonic movie, hashtag gotta fix fast." So my question is, why is it that the film's creative team didn't see how awful the design of Sonic was until the public reacted? And did you think that they maybe just thought they could get away with it? I mean, I don't mean to sound like they're being malicious, but like, how do you not get to that point where the trailer's out and then you're like, oh, people hate it, let's fix it? Like...
Why did they hate it? Like, I want to hear why they had the movie look like that. Like, who approved this? How, I don't know how it even got so far that like they didn't have a test group of fans like criticize it. Like, they didn't have any of the Sonic artists come in. Like, even Sega said they weren't happy with the design and they just ignored them. So my thinking is that maybe studio execs were like, no, that looks amazing, just keep it going, and don't listen to the people from Sega. What do they know, And it's like, this is our version of Sonic, and I think they kind of win with it, and the more people told them no, the more they doubled down on it. Or, like, there's even this conspiracy theory that that fans made that it was early CGI and they wanted people to hate it, and they were already fixing it, but I highly doubt that, because, like, there's no way that you would release a thing and be all, oh, everybody's going to crap on it, so it's okay, guys, it's all part of the plan. It's almost like that meme where the guy's like, says something dumb, and they're like, you're a dumbass, and the guy goes, oh, I was just pretending to be dumb, but everybody thinks you're dumb, so, yeah. Yeah,
no, you don't make merchandise with the intent of redesigning. Like, you just don't.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So let's see what happened next in this crazy story. So in May, the news hit the movie would be delayed until February 14th, 2020. The news broke by way of a tweet from the director with a drawing of Sonic's gloved hand holding a signpost. And Fowler said that they were taking a little more time to make Sonic just right. Hashtag no VFX artists were harmed in the making of this movie. Well, I won't get into it, but you know, they kind of were. Didn't they lay off the studio? Kind of closed after they did the work on this movie. Oops. Interestingly, the art style in the tweet was very similar to that of Tyson Hesse or Hess. I never get his name.
I think it's Hess, but I don't want to be.
Let's call it Hess.
Okay.
I met the guy. God damn it! What am I doing? So, did they make the right call in delaying the film? I think we can agree, yes.
100%.
And what did you make of? At the time, we thought Tyson was maybe doing it, but when we found out, what did you make of that?
Very good. Okay, so he does. Tyson has his way of capturing Sonic in an animated way where he could just smile and it really like looks like Sonic, and it has this characterization that you kind of fell in love with in the Sega Genesis era. And he does all these subtle things where it's like the nose is just that little different, and the eyes look just that little different, and all those little changes make a huge difference in the Sonic character. He really understands it. I mean, he's been drawing it since he was a kid. There's other artists in Sega that also understand it that way, and I'm just surprised that they didn't hire him earlier. Like, you would think with all the stuff with Sonic Mania Adventures and all these things that they wouldn't be more inclined to get him instead of whoever they had working on the design to begin with.
Right.
So that was surprising to me that they took this long. It was the right choice, and it really did pay off for him. And now Tyson could put this on his growing resume of Sonic stuff, and hopefully get some more animated work. Maybe, hopefully, with other studios, because I think he's very good at what he does. So yeah, that's just. What do you think about it? I mean, obviously, it was the right choice. I mean, the movie.
No, I was really happy. I think he did a great job. He captures, just like how Patrick Spazienti, who did a lot of the covers for the Archie Sonic, he really nailed Sonic, and not only that, but he could do a variety of styles. And with Tyson, he can do classic, he can do modern, he can do Sonic the Hedgehog, he can do now movie Sonic. Like, regardless of the way he draws it, it still looks like you said it captures who Sonic is. So even though the movie version that we got for the final product does not look exactly like the video game, it really captures a lot of what makes the character appealing and why people love it so much. So in November 2018, when the movie was originally set to premiere, a second trailer hit and the new design was revealed. So let's watch that one now. You ready?
Right. Yeah, let me give you a sec. Let me just get the thing on widescreen. This is the second one, right? It's 2 minutes and 51? Yeah.
That's right.
All right. Tell me when to press play.
Let's go.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super
Green Hill
energy
Zone, one of the best
in an
stages.
extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always
Now,
after my powers.
I really like the way he did it. So.
They CG'd adult Sonic, though, in that scene, because that's not... I mean, it's all CG, but that's not baby Sonic.
Yeah, and I also like the Flash tribute with he's reading the comics. Did you know that Sonic liked baseball?
I guess so.
Ugh, I can't with that guy.
That was a weird scene, like the baseball thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice logo.
Mm-hmm.
If they steal my power, they could conquer.
Is it weird that when I watched it in the movie theaters, I was already freaking out when they had the Sega logo with all the games?
Oh, man. Well, we'll get into that. I really like that logo, though.
Give you 5 seconds to tell
You
me
should have done the
what it
Go Sega, though, but I know. Whatever.
Road trip?
This can't be happening.
Car trip, road trip.
Car trip.
I want to get one of those trucks, dude, that Tom has. What sponsorship, right?
Isn't it a Tacoma?
Probably. It's a sponsorship, right, though? Didn't everybody
Yeah.
drive the same car kind of trucks?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that joke? I'm so
I
fast.
didn't like it.
No, I know.
I don't like anything.
This whole scene right here, it's like meme.
That's not even the song he danced to in the movie. It was like a...
This character right here, what do you think? Like, I'll tell you my opinion on him, but yeah, they're showing like they showed almost the whole movie right here. I would say.
Yeah, they show a lot.
I like it. The designs of the cars remind me of like modern Sonic designs.
Like 06.
Yeah, like 06, the bad ones that I didn't really like. I mean, they're just not as interesting as the classic. You know?
By the way. Aw, this one is cute. Let's keep him. Oh, come on.
How small is that robot, dude?
Why would you throw your life away for this?
And then here we are at the final.
Good time.
He's my friend.
Naked Sonic? With the back towel? He was already naked.
That's what I like.
Why would he do that?
I'm using it to protect.
Great Wall of China, dude, you knew this was gonna happen. Like,
So, you're
in this
supposed to be
joke, I
trying
actually kind of like this joke. I thought it was pretty cute.
Well, I don't see the appeal. That is very gross.
I mean, I like golden retrievers, so I mean, it worked.
Right. Yeah, so how does that trailer compare to the previous one?
Oh, obviously a lot better. We got a lot more of the story. We actually got Green Hill Zone. We got the cool Sega logo with all the other games. You just got little things where you're like, oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. Oh,
Yeah.
I do like that Sonic is wearing a lot of like different outfits. I thought it was something they were just gonna keep him like, oh, he's Sonic. That's it. That's all we need. But he has like that whole cowboy getup thing in the bar, and then he has the baseball getup. I think all those little things were cool for merchandising. And I don't know. I just like when Sonic dresses weird. I also like when like anime characters do that. You know, like when Dragon Ball randomly would have those art where they're like driving cars or riding bikes. I like that kind
Right.
of stuff where there's like you're like seeing the Simpsons, but then randomly they'll do official art where they're all in tuxedos or they're all wearing something different. I like that. I don't know why. It's just something that I always liked.
That was something they actually mentioned in the film commentary. They said they tried to put Sonic in different outfits as much as they can because they had a lot of fun, like dressing him up and putting props in his hands.
And what do you think about that?
Just doing that,
Yeah.
it's fun. You know, it like gives you a different. You know, you have it. It kind of sets the scenes apart a little more because then you have the cowboy outfit and you have the towel, and you know it. You see a screenshot of it and you know the scene. You know, it kind of gives a little more character to the movie because Sonic's a little more, and it also I think helps him. You know, he's a cartoonish looking character, but he's more a part of the scene because he's dressing for the part, I guess.
Yeah.
So it grounds him a little bit more. You see, so there are ways to do it and still make it work. Again, I think Tim Miller was just wrong when it came to his I think it was probably came down to him, you know, the executive producer. So I'm really happy that he bent and they actually put it in there.
I agree.
So I think we're getting close to release. So here we go. Finally, January 2020, the movie was almost within our grasp. Posters and online campaigns heated up. A really bad hip-hop tie-in song was revealed. And rumors of a Tails cameo were heard, first at SEGA Bits. And finally, the big day came and Sonic the Hedgehog was hitting theaters. So George, where were you? It came out February 14th, but they did showings February 13th. So where were you on February 13th, 2020, when Sonic hit American theaters? I'm sure you were in the theater, right, George?
I was in the theater day once, the first second. No. I was not. I didn't watch it at first because, like, I didn't know what to expect, and I'm not the type of guy that goes and watches movies day one. Like, even for like movies that I'm super excited about, I'll wait a couple days. It's just I don't like being in the theater with a lot of people, and I feel like every time you go in with the first wave, I always feel like it's the noisiest people of all time. Like, I even saw people, and I love Sonic fans, and I'm happy that they're happy, but like posting videos of them like with their like right out of the movie theater, like just like talking about the movie. It's like I felt like that was bad when people did it in their car. But like literally in the lobby of the theater going, crying and stuff. It's like I'm not that type of fan. I've never been that type of fan. I'm glad there's people like that, but like and the only reason I watched it so soon was because we had to do the sci-fi podcast and we had to talk about it. So if they never messaged us, I probably would have waited a couple of weeks. But you know what? now I'm actually very sad I didn't watch it day one because now with the whole COVID-19 is like the last big blockbuster movie we got during these months that we have to wait and not talk to people. And now I'm like, man, it feels like a lifetime ago. And it was just literally February 2 months ago.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, I was actually on a trip in Florida. I was on vacation visiting my grandpa. We took a 2 days in Disney World. So I was actually at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge that day building my lightsaber. So
where's your lightsaber at?
It's right behind me. I'm blurry, I think, in the video, but it's
what do you
it's a
make?
blur back there.
What color do you make?
Red. I went with the Sith.
Oh man,
so,
bad guy.
I gotta say, like, it was in the back of my head a little bit, but like when I was there, I was so happy. Like I was having so much fun that I was, because I have different fandoms, so like. It's just interesting to think that I was like at peak Star Wars fandom at that time when probably one of the peak Sonic fandom things was happening and I was ignoring it. I wasn't ignoring it, but I wasn't participating in it at that time. I tried to go see the movie that weekend, but it was just really difficult because I was visiting family. And then the next weekend rolls around, we were gone the last week, so I wanted to, be home, do things. Next week hits and I'm like, I really should go see that movie. And then we got the sci-fi call, and I'm like, I don't have time to go see it. Can I cram it in? So I did watch a bootleg.
Good.
And I'm admitting that now. And I was telling myself, I felt bad, and I'm like, you know what? This coming weekend, I'll go see it. And this is when the COVID stuff started to heat up. Aww. And my wife was like, I don't think you should go see a movie. And I'm like, that's crazy. Of course you go see a movie. And then I'm like, okay, I'm busy anyway this weekend. I'll go during the week next week, yada yada. It goes on, and then it's like it starts to get real, and I'm like, oh, guess that's not happening. So we were talking about that SEGA logo, and that's the one thing I really am sad about that I didn't get to see in theaters was the big SEGA logo on the big screen. And to be honest, I'm sad that I wasn't a part of seeing the movie. Like, we'll get into the review right after this, but just to not be there kind of hurts,
Especially considering there was well received by fans, at least. I think it got like a mid, like 60-something score. I personally think that it was better than Detective Pokemon or Pikachu, because I watched that with an open mind. And I felt like the story just went all over the place, and it was like, when you're following the plot and it gets a little muddy. I thought this had that problem, but not as bad. So I would say the narrative was more focused, and it worked. But that's just my opinion. I want to hear what other people say though when they hear this, what they thought about Pokemon and this one, because they're both kind of in the real world with real buddy, right? Like in the Pikachu one, he's helping him solve his dad's murder, which is kind of grim, to be honest with you. And this one, it's basically Sonic hanging out with Tom, a cop. So,
yeah. So you mentioned the movie. So George, people have been asking us to review the movie.
Oh no!
And we have not.
That's true.
So let's do it here right now. Let's do a quick, because show's running long, but let's do a quick review. We'll run through plot, characters, writing, music, potential for a sequel, and then in the end we'll give it the classic thumbs up or thumbs down. Let's try to keep this like 5 minutes. I know that sounds short, but
okay. So
kind of blaze through this. So
let's
and we don't need to recount it, but let's just say, did you like the plot?
Parts of it and parts of it not. The buddy cop stuff works for a film like this, especially for an introductory character, especially if you have to do it in the real world. You keep the scenes moving along. That worked fine. I thought Tom and the girlfriend subplot was all right. They delivered something that shouldn't have been there, and it's usually those kind of plot points are usually the most boring plot points in these movies. They delivered a performance enough where I was like, okay, Tom is actually a likable guy. I thought Robert Robotnik was on the second viewing. First viewing, I didn't like him. He was just Jim Carrey. Second viewing, I liked him, but I felt like his partner should have been a robot, kind of like the classic robots, like Cubot and Orbot or something. So when he hits them, you don't feel bad that he's like neck slapping a human in the face. Because I thought that was the whole point, that he was lonely and he only talked to robots. It would have been cool if it was like two robot characters like the originals. I'm trying to think of other plot points. I didn't like the whole power that he had, that blue thing. like that lightning. I thought they could have just done the Chaos Emeralds or something. I did like Long Claw, and I did like the Green Hill Zone stuff, and I want to see more of that. I did like the Mushroom Hill callback, and that's my only thing with the plot point. And it was just all right. I mean, it's a good introductionary movie. I'm more excited for the sequel, like most people. But yeah.
Right. Yeah. So for me, with the plot, I think it really felt like a Sonic X adaptation. Instead of Chris Thorndike, it was Tom Wachowski. And I think if you were to compare the two, I think Tom's the better character. But I will say the weakest parts of the movie, and the reason why when I was rewatching the digital version, I kept tuning out and doing other things. Like I'd watch 20, 30 minutes of the movie and then pause it and watch it the next day. Was the Tom and Maddie stuff just really took me out. It just bored me when he was like, so what's this little thing you two have going on? It's a little nickname thing. Like these little cutesy couples arguments.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog movie. Like, they should have had the logo appear in the corner saying, don't forget, you're still watching Sonic the Hedgehog. Because that's the last thing I would have expected to see. I think the best stuff is the Green Hill Zone setup, the Long Claw, the lore, and even the evolution of Robotnik turning into the Eggman we know from the games. I thought that was actually well done. I did not like how Carrie looked in the initial trailers, but to see the transformation, and even his voice starts to sound a little bit more like Robotnik, or like the game character, I thought worked really well. As far as characters, I mean, Sonic, we could talk forever about Sonic. I feel like we've been talking forever about him for the past 25 plus years.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I thought they did a decent job. I just think he was a little too self-doubting. But of course, this is an origin story, so I guess Sonic has to start somewhere. I guess he wasn't born cool.
No.
How'd you feel about Sonic?
Nobody's born cool, right?
Yeah.
I liked him as a character. I know they did him as a juvenile delinquent, which is, I think, fine. My issues with the Sonic character was probably, like, his plot was kind of weird, where Tails is looking for him, but he never had friends, though, in the beginning, he says. And him stalking the characters, like, I kind of wanted to make a horror version of the trailer where it was the old model, and it's like, I've been watching you. And it's like, these two people are in love, and they're like, oh, honey, where are you going? And it's like, I'm watching you all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Donut Lord.
Yeah. Donut Lord. I know you get donuts every Monday. And it's like a Child's Play trailer cut.
Yeah.
So I think it works. He was good. I just kind of wish they didn't do too much Flash jokes. I feel like when they pitched this movie to the old person, they were like, the movie The Flash or that Quicksilver from X-Men, that's kind of how we're going to do Sonic. And that's basically what they did a lot. Like, time slows down. Is he fast or does he slow down time? I don't know. Whatever.
Right. And I'm with you on that. I think that was a mistake to treat him like he was Quicksilver or the Flash or even Superman, where Sonic can move fast, but he still reacts in real time. It's not as though, like you saw with the missile thing, he wasn't moving fast, he was just standing there. So how the heck could he just stop and go, do.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought Sonic, I think the redesign really helped. And I think Schwartz's characterization shines through a lot more because of that. If he was in the old one, you'd be looking more at the weird design and paying less attention to the performance, which I thought was fine. I also appreciated that in the commentary, he actually is very aware of the people who voice Sonic, so he mentions Ryan, he mentions Roger, so that's cool. Maybe he's talked to them, I don't know. Long Claw, we have her here. It's a girl, right? Woman?
Yes, the mother character.
Yeah, and very little is seen of her, but she's almost like the wizard character that brought Sonic into our world and, raised him. I think there's more there that they could explore. I'm surprised there wasn't like a kid's book that came out with like Baby Sonic and Long Claw. Seems like a missed opportunity there. You liked Long Claw, yeah? I
did like Long Claw. I thought it was kind of weird that they kind of like established like you have to leave because you have this power, but yet they put him in a world where he was alone forever and like he still got caught in. I mean, he still got found out that he has the power, right? So it's kind of like a Superman kind of plot where you're not supposed to tell people about your power and you leave your world. But it's like, what was the point? And why are these echidnas trying to find him? And it's like, that was interesting to me. Like, I wish that we explore that more in the sequel. But yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what they called it, but then they say he has like the chaos energy or something like that. So I think what they're setting up is that the echidnas know that Sonic has the ability to harness the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald, and maybe they're trying to raise their island or sink it, who knows. But I think that's what they were setting up there. I also think, and we'll get into Robotnik now, we talked about him a lot when we were talking the plot there, so I don't think we have to say too much more. But I think Carey worked really well. I think he kind of stole the show. I think he interacted really well with all of the characters that he interacted with. I liked his Agent Stone, his sidekick. I liked how he traded repartee with Sonic. I liked his fights with Tom. So overall, I think Robotnik was probably the strongest part of the movie. And should we bunch Tom and Maddie together and talk about those guys?
I have them separate, so we could talk about Donut Lord at first. I know you didn't like them. I still feel like he did a good job to be the sidekick. I feel like that's a pretty hard... it's kind of hard to be in an animated film when the star is Sonic and you're just the guy that they have there so they can save on CGI. Usually it's really awfully done. I thought he was just fine. I mean, obviously I don't like the idea that there's a Tom... the cop friend character. Like I don't like that usually in these movies, but this could have been a lot worse. And that's basically it. And he's a handsome dude for the moms, so they could bring the kids.
Yeah, I feel bad for the stuff I said about James Marsden because he did really feel like they were kind of like picking one of their last choices. Like, no offense to the guy, but like X-Men 3 was really his last big movie. So, but then again, you look at it, and I think he works well. I think he actually is pretty funny for a guy I didn't think was funny. Now, as far as Maddie, I thought she was fine. She played, the actress, I believe, played Michelle Obama in the movie South Side with You. And I saw them filming that, actually. And it's funny because... So hear me out. Remember the Sonic backpack meme with Obama? Think about it. Sonic is now the child, basically, of Tom and Maddie. Maddie's actress played Michelle Obama, so that backpack's more accurate than it has ever been. Sonic is an Obama, basically.
She's a great actress. She played. I guess she's a good actress. I mean, like I don't mind her in the role. I do think that she's like even had a lesser role than Tom. So obviously, like. She didn't really have like, oh, I'm a strong character. She just played I'm the girlfriend that's supportive and always loves you, and I'm at the house.
Right. And then she's got the sister with the daughter
that hates him.
Magically, the little girl magically has Sonic's shoes, and I don't know whose shoes those are.
The shoes that went through a lot of like. When we first saw it, they were supposed to be Nikes, and I think in the end they were Pumas. Did you buy any of the promotion shoes?
I buy promotional shoes. I see the people who do, and I'm just like, nah.
I want them, but I'm not going to pay money for them. But I mean,
no.
I would look slick with the.
How do you feel about Crazy Carl?
I have him right here on the screen with the Sonic drawing. I actually thought it was cool that they have a crazy guy. I don't even know what to say. He had such a minor role in the movie. He was just the crazy guy that saw Sonic and nobody else did. And then in the end, he's the right one, right? He was right. Told you guys, the blue demon was real.
Right, yeah, he does have a minor role, but he pops up constantly throughout the movie. And in the deleted scenes, there is an extended sequence where he's hunting Sonic, and you can see the old design that is like in shadow. It's really creepy. So if you want your horror movie, there's your footage to pull from. Ooh. And finally, for characters, it's crazy because you said Crazy Carl, should he be on here? Tails had less screen time than Crazy Carl.
But we have to talk about him because it's like...
Yeah, we gotta.
They had the original voice actor. Cool. The design looks cool because obviously it's a redesign. I want to see the original design of it because imagine how creepy it is. And I do know that they said that this movie... or this character was supposed to be in the original movie or in the original script. highly doubted because I feel like a lot of the story contradicts Tails being his friend or Tails finding him. Like, you would think that when you meet Tom and you talk to him about these other worlds, you would say, "Oh, I lost my friend Tails in the other world," or have a way. Like, why are you hiding from Tails? Like, and why was Tails never mentioned in the beginning or anything? I just don't get it.
Yeah, well, in the games, Tails was just like a fan of Sonic's, and he started following him around. So maybe this is Tails knowing that Sonic has this like echidna energy that they're looking for, and so he knows Sonic is important. And when he meets Sonic, he starts to idolize him and become more of a friend. And I'm wondering if the setup is that Tom learns to let Sonic go because he found a friend from his own world, and so maybe Tom will have it'll be like a shorter. Maybe 20 minutes into the movie, Tom's like, "You know what, buddy? You go have your adventure with your pal. We'll always be friends. You can always come back here, but, go get that Eggman." Maybe that's what it's going to be.
Maybe.
Maybe, but, I really liked how the voice actress was retained. I'm surprised that they did that. It's the woman who was doing Tails in the games. And so I'm wondering if they're going to keep them or if it's going to be like a Tom Holland situation. Where they're like, the next movie has more of a budget and they bring someone new on. I hope not, because I want them to keep the consistency. Yeah. I put writing in here because, plot and writing kind of go hand in hand, but it does, like character dialogue, things like that. I should note, they said in the commentary, a lot of Sonic's lines were actually improvised. So what they said on set was in the final movie. So
that must have been a kind of a pain,
I think,
right? Like for CGI.
Not because basically they would decide on the final thing Sonic would say, and then that would be what they animated. So what I find interesting is, and I'm going to ask you this for the writing thing: do you think Sonic was inconsistent with the rest of the character dialogue?
I didn't. I mean, outside of like he always made these like speed jokes, I didn't really notice anything that weird about his writing. I would say that some of the writing was fine. I do like that they had a Fast and the Furious joke, which is kind of funny because the producers, the Fast and the Furious,
right?
I thought that made me laugh. No, did you notice anything?
No, I didn't. I just thought it was. I feel like sometimes that can really fall flat, like with Ghostbusters 2016, when you let everyone start riffing and making stuff up on set, and then you basically lose the plot. So I'm glad that he let Ben Schwartz improvise, but not to the point of throwing the movie's plot off. So that's a case where when you start to divert away from the writing, the plot starts to suffer. And I think it didn't in the end. I think they did a good job. I think Ben Schwartz was committed enough to the story to know that this wasn't like goofy time at the Improv. Like he had a character he was playing, so that's good.
I do think that some of the Robotnik scenes kind of felt like they were like some of the film that you could tell. I don't know, like they felt like they were filmed like in way different time, and like they could have just like plicked them and plopped them anywhere in the plot, like which I guess is easy for an editor because now you're like, okay, we got this much of the Sonic, we got to take a break, put back Eggman in here,
right.
But
right.
So I could tell, like, when I was watching it the few times that I could have just, like, edited the movie any way I wanted to. Like, I could just put this scene here, this scene here. Just as long as the beginning and the end are the same, anything in between it could be mixed and matched.
So you're saying it felt a little disjointed?
Yeah, I felt like they messed around with that a lot. Like, you could tell when the second viewing, I could tell, like, oh, yeah, they could have edited this any way they wanted. And the way they edited it is fine, but it does feel like it doesn't sit too long, which is good for a kid's film. Because kids don't want to be sitting there hearing, like, if you watch the first TMNT movie, I like the second one because it jumped when I was a kid. But now as an adult, I like the first movie because it has a story about family and it's more concise and more into the character. But yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Music-wise, I will just say that I think the music was fine but forgettable. I was actually really surprised that Junkie XL gave such a safe soundtrack, average soundtrack. Like if you look on Twitter, people are sharing this, and I posted one too, where it's the chase scene with only the sound effects and people were putting music onto it. Now, like I said, I watched the movie in a not so legal way initially. I later rectified that. I threw a lot of money at SEGA. I've been throwing money at SEGA, but I didn't remember the music from that scene. But I rewatched it with the headphones on. It was so forgettable. It was like, this is the biggest scene. I was expecting some really fun hard driving, either cartoonish or Sonic-y music, but it was just like dun 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 dun.
Maybe
You know, it was just like
maybe they forgot to pay him. Like it was also
I don't know.
It was also interesting to hear that he said that he wanted to do it on like a 16-bit sound chip or something.
And they wouldn't let him.
They wouldn't let him, but I'm like, did he really want to do all that work? Because like, I don't know, like he didn't feel like he even like remixed old songs or even took inspirations from old songs. There was a bit when they were like fixing the house and they played Green Hill Zone, like a piano remix. And I looked that up and it was like a totally different artist, I think. It was like there's like a live performance of the guy doing it on YouTube, and that's all I saw. And I was kind of surprised because like it took me forever to find it on the internet when the movie came out.
So I will say the best and most memorable music did not come from him. It was the Hyper Potions Discovery, I think it was, from Sonic Mania at the beginning, and then the Green Hill stuff going on. But I'll be honest, like I was really disappointed that Junkie XL's soundtrack, which I actually have within reaching distance here, had a limited release on CD. It was forgettable, and I'm kind of surprised by that. And no themes stuck out really. I heard people say that the Robotnik stuff sounded kind of like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's kind of a stretch. So I think that was actually the weakest part of the movie, surprisingly. And this is from a guy who complained constantly for the last 2 years about what I thought the plot was going to be.
I have to agree, and I hope that for the future movie they kind of look at the SEGA sound team, because I feel like even though there's some really bad Sonic games, the soundtracks are always slapping, man. They always have this soundtrack where you're like, oh man, Sonic 06, hear the soundtrack, dude. That thing is great. And that you don't have to play the game.
So what do you think about not so much like the potential for a sequel in terms of what the studio might do, but do you want a sequel?
Yes. I mean, I think everybody that watched this movie coming out were more excited for what the future holds for Sonic than they were about the movie. I feel like the movie was kind of like watching the first maybe like 5 episodes of Sopranos. You're like, it's cool, it's shot well, but like it's building up to something, and I feel like this movie is just building up to the sequel. And that's what fans really wanted, and that's why they came out excited, because they liked what they saw from the Sonic world. Like the little glimpse they gave you, it's kind of like The Force Awakens when they give you all these little sugary plot points, and you're like, ooh, where does that lead? And that's kind of what they did here.
Right, and I think the difference is in The Force Awakens, they give you those, but then they pay them off within the same movie.
Yeah.
A lot of times, because you get Han Solo, you get the Falcon, you get a lot of these cool things. You get Luke at the end. I mean, spoiler alert. Here, though, I feel like a lot of the times they were, and if you listen to the commentary, they'll keep going, oh, there's an Easter egg, there's an Easter egg. Every time it's an Easter egg, it's something pertaining to Sonic and the stuff we love. Anytime it's something else, it's like, oh, yeah, we had a lot of fun doing this scene where Tom and Maddie were blah, blah, blah. So it's like, I feel like they were not focused on what really would have made the movie great. I think the fact that we thought the Long Claw stuff and the Green Hill stuff was the strongest, and that's just the setup, says a lot about the movie's weaknesses. Still, having said that, I think it's a very watchable movie. I think it's a very competently made movie. I think it's made by people who cared about what they were making. I just don't think they cared so much about making a great Sonic movie as they were making a great family movie comedy, which I think is rare these days. So, I mean, honestly, let's do our thumbs up. You know, people are going to be surprised. I'm going to give it a thumbs up.
I'm giving it a thumbs up too. I think it's a good family movie. Like you said, those are rare. Like I watch some family movies, and I mean rare outside of Pixar, right? Where like you watch like the Smurfs. I didn't really like the Smurfs. I mean the Chipmunks one or whatever, that one I didn't like either.
Awful.
Yeah, so this became a lot better. I think, like you said, at least they had the Easter eggs. I think the problem was that executives don't really think people know about Sonic or Sega, like at least the average moviegoers, and maybe not, but like people didn't know who Shazam was before the Shazam movie. Can you imagine? They're like, sorry, he can't transform into a superhero in Shazam because nobody knows who that is. Nobody cares. It has to be a kid movie where he hangs out with a cop and they eat donuts all day. So, in my opinion, you have to establish the lore and put the lore. And I wish they put more of that lore in the film, but it's still, prime for a sequel. And I hope that the studio execs move out of the way and let the directors and writers that put those Easter eggs go all full out for the next movie.
Yeah.
And,
if you like our content, don't forget. No. So, yeah. So due to the coronavirus, the movie did not see a full theatrical run. I think it was 45-day run, but it did see a long enough run to make it the biggest video game movie ever in domestic sales. The movie ended up making $306 million worldwide, just shy of $325 million, which would have been, I don't understand this, I saw this in an article, would have been 3.83 times its production budget, which I guess is amazingly well, but instead it just did amazing. It is unknown how much Sonic would have made in the end, but it is currently the second highest grossing film in 2020 as of this podcast. Should theaters reopen by September, we could see it dethroned very quickly by the likes of Wonder Woman 84, No Time to Die, and others. My prediction is No Time to Die is going to be the highest grossing movie of the year, followed by Wonder Woman 84.
Do you think people are going to go right back? I mean, after summer, maybe.
I'm talking because No Time to Die is November.
Oh, okay.
So unless there's and I don't want to date this podcast, but unless there's a flare up again of cases, I think people are going to be going to this to see, because No Time to Die has been delayed insanely. If you think Sonic was delayed, No Time to Die has been delayed, I think 3 or 4 times now. I mean, The New Mutants only rivals it because that movie was supposed to come out in 2017. So, or it was filmed in 2016, I think, 2017 release. Yeah.
And it's funny that the movie that beat this movie so far is Bad Boys 4, one of the best movies. Bad Boy for Life. You know what I mean?
That's right, man. Bad boys ride together. Bad boys die together.
But yeah. I guess we could close it up, or do you have anything else to say about the movie?
Yeah, well, we're getting close to the closing, so I'm just going to say, looking at where Sonic the movie began and where it ended up, what do you think of the film's journey to the big screen? Do you think, what do you think?
It's a weird ride that I think if you look at our early Sega news bits were very negative towards the movie. I think we ate socks here because I think it did sound terrible when we first heard about it. But the redesign and the actual movie plot was good enough to make us excited for a sequel. So I would say very well done for the studio. And the journey was very interesting. And watching all the twists and turns was interesting.
Yeah, as you can see, this is our longest Sega Talk, I think. But I think it's well earned because there's so much to talk about with this movie. You did say we ate our socks. I think we were dead on when it came to the pre-redesign stuff. I think this movie would have bombed hard, been garbage. We would have hated it just because of that original design. Even if the movie was the same movie we got, it lacked the energy and just that comes from that design that we finally got. So I'm glad that they did what they did. They got kicked in the teeth a little bit, but in the end, they made the best possible movie that they could have made with this budget and with this plot. It is what it is, but I'm really hoping for a sequel. A sequel is being discussed. In an interview with Sci-Fi Wire, Jeff Fowler said if another happens, he would like to see Sonic and Tails together, and we would see Robotnik evolve into his video game persona. Nothing's been greenlit yet, but you got to imagine that's because Hollywood's kind of closed right now. But I think it would be crazy not to start work following all of this, given the movie's success. So we do have Patreon memories. If you support us on Patreon, you get your comments read. Unfortunately, some of these guys, they're really, really long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these in the article when we post it up on the sites, but I will just read the first few sentences from these guys. So Daniel Andres, he says, I went to go see the movie with my buddy Alex, and we both really liked it. It felt nice. Neat little small town at the end of the day. Personally, I did want a different film, one preferably animated that consisted of Sonic, Tails, Amy, Eggman, and maybe Metal Sonic. But for a first film, yada yada. Sorry, he has a very, very long. But it sounds like he liked what we got. Nicholas Schaefer says, wow, where to start with this one? Well, when the original trailer released, I resolved to boycott it. After the redesign, I was cautiously optimistic, and well, I would have preferred all animated in Sonic's world, but at the end of the day, I just wanted something that was family fun and that wouldn't be embarrassing, and boy did it deliver. It was amazing. I saw it 5 times, and I bought the Steelbook. So, you know, it's kind of like these people were on a similar journey to us. They were like, and now they're like, So, on that note, thank you for watching SEGA Talk. We will